In the quiet moments before the world wakes up, there's a place where pain meets peace, where every breath feels like a prayer and grief stands still. We carry the weight of what was and search for meaning in the smallest things. And sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us we're still here, still healing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast. And yes, we're your number one podcast that brings you stories around death, dying, and grief, all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here changing people's lives, one heartbeat at a time. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And most importantly, this is a live stream, so if you have any questions or comments for either myself or my guests, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, one other thing, this is for educational purposes only. Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my guest to the show, Tianna. Tianna, how you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me, Tony.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show. I'm excited for this.
I'm excited as well.
Yeah. So before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Thank you. My name is Tianna. I am a registered nurse. I am a mom of two amazing babies, and I'm also the founder of Love Serve Warm. I help busy, high-achieving women with PCOS lose weight and get pregnant naturally. And I actually created this business after losing my own first pregnancy at 6 months pregnant with PCOS.
Now, which leads me to my first question. Can you explain what PCOS is?
Absolutely. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And although the name might lead you to believe that the hallmark symptom associated with PCOS is polycystic ovaries, in reality, it is inconsistent cycles, right? So women who have irregular monthly regular cycles, right? So for a lot of women with PCOS, they really don't get the diagnosis that they deserve. I believe the statistics say like 50% of women are undiagnosed, and the other 50% can take up to 5 years to get a active diagnosis from a physician. Okay. So in other words, it's Go ahead.
No, please, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
In other words, it's a collection of hormonal imbalances, and that can look differently across other women, right? So some women can have trouble losing weight. Some women can have fertility issues. Some women can have early perimenopause, and just things of that sort. I just wanted to shed a little bit more light on the symptoms of PCOS. I felt like I kind of left it a little vague.
No worries. I'm glad that you did, because I was over here like, oh man, that is something that most people don't really think about, right? Because I've talked to a lot of people who have had trouble conceiving, and they go through the IVF, or they, there's a few other treatments out there as well. And sometimes people look past certain things. So you shedding a light on that. I want to first off say thank you for the work that you do and everything. Yeah. So let's dive deeper into some of that as well. How do you help these women navigate that and get them to a place to where they can conceive and eventually have a family?
Absolutely. So every woman is unique in her journey. Every woman has a different unique starting point and ultimately a different ending point, right? So my programs are deeply customized for the woman in front of me. But to give two examples of two cases that are most similar, it'll most likely be like a woman who is dealing with overweight, infertility, things of that sort, and she'll come to me looking to conceive. And how exactly we do that is when a lot of women go for IVF, what they fail to acknowledge is that if your body cannot naturally do what it was biologically created to do, there is an issue there, right? And capitalism has caused us to believe that the solution to most of our issues are something outside of us, right? So when women struggle with hormonal imbalances, whether it is a natural consequence of the weight gain that they have gained that has affected their cycle and made them unable to have a baby, or it's just something that they struggled with lack of ovulation their whole life, a lot of times they'll go to IVF, and it's kind of like a manual override, right? It's like my body is biologically blocking the insemination of this fetus, and I'm going to go ahead and have it like manually done. And what we'll see is, and what I've seen as a labor and delivery and NICU nurse, is that when I was working in NICU, a lot of these women will have early babies, right? A lot of these women are C-sections. A lot of these women suffer with complications. And it really didn't hit me at the time until I suffered my own loss. And it was like, where is the preconception care, right? Like, why is it that a woman has to be diagnosed with infertility before we receive any sort of preconception care, preconception education? I mean, if I'm honest, Tony, most women don't even know that their monthly cycle is irrelated to their ovulation, and that they can bleed every month and still not be able to produce a baby. And that just shows you where the American health care and education system is when it comes to women's health. So that's the beginning, right? Until you make the unknown known, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. And I think I said that quote to you one time, right? And I feel like this is the issue with a lot of my clients, right? There is this like hypersexualization of young Black women, and it creates this pipeline where we are kind of like funneled into birth control without ever understanding the hormonal imbalances, and also the things that are more prevalent in women of color, like fibroids, right? 8 out of every 10 women of color is going to have fibroids in her lifetime. Yet no one knows what the signs are, what are hormonal imbalances, how do we reduce them? So that's really where we start, right? And then with everything, information doesn't equal transformation, right? So there's a point of like cognitive dissonance where it's and that's where there has to be a sense of change in identity, right? It has to be like, what is the goal? Where are you now? And how can we reverse engineer to get you to where you want to be and who you want to be? What does that look like? And then how can we work every single week to get you a 1%, just a 1% change to gradually get you to where you want to be? And for some women, that's pregnancy. For some women, that's just knowing that they're going to get pregnant, right? Just knowing that I can ovulate, having that sense of peace. For some women, it's losing weight, right? So those goals can vary.
Okay, I love that. I love that because you shed a lot of light on that, things I didn't know myself, right? And I have a younger sister, but my sister has 4 kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now, let's dive deeper into your journey into figuring all of this stuff out, right? Because before your loss, what was that journey like for you?
Oh man, so before my loss, I would say my journey was pretty smooth, right? So it's let me go all the way back. When I was 18, my mom gave birth to a child who essentially had zero chance to live. She was incompatible with life, and they knew so from the pregnancy. But because my mom had struggled with infertility her whole life, she wanted to fight this fight, and I wanted to back her out, not back her up, not understanding the severity and how it would affect your lifestyle overall having a special needs child. But we moved forward, and shortly after she was born, my sister, she had all of these medical complications. She required a tracheostomy. She required a feeding tube. At one point, they had to remove the intestines out of her stomach and put it on a bag, and a sterile bag, so they can grow outside the stomach. I mean, she really had like over 30 surgeries. She really was just a living testament. And the hospital gave me a $40,000 scholarship so I could become a registered nurse to take her home and to extend her quality of life. And she's 17 right now on hospice. So we did that. But before I got pregnant, after my mom had the situation, I went into the hospital, labor delivery, NICU, perinatal ER, just thinking that with a little bit of faith, everything could be saved. Like, and if something wasn't working, you just didn't pray hard enough, right? And maybe still holding on to that a little bit, because I do believe that, faith moves things, but also understanding that faith alone wasn't working in the spaces that I was working in. And I had to manage my expectations accordingly. And I feel like the light within me was already dwindling down before I got pregnant, before I had my first pregnancy, just because the identity that I created couldn't withstand the evidence of my everyday job, which was the reality that I wasn't saving every baby. They weren't all living. There was a lot of women, especially I work in South Florida. There was a lot of women who were migrant workers from the farms who never had prenatal care, who'd never seen a doctor, so they were coming to deliver, and we don't even know what they're delivering. And because they work with pesticides, because they were in these crops for 10, 12 hours a day, the babies would come out mutated, incompatible with life. Things that, if I'm honest, Tony, it's like things that you really only see in a movie. It's like, even, like my little NICU stethoscope, and people are like, where do you work? Nursery? I'm like, no, I'm what comes before nursery. I'm like, I work with the babies that they're not like, they're not compatible with life.
Right.
A lot of military babies, especially being in South Florida, from the Bahamas, we get all the international, right? So military babies, legs fused together, tail outside the body, eyes outside the skull. I mean, things that I was not prepared to see. And it started to break me. And I think that I was still very optimistic, but it wasn't until my pregnancy loss that I was like, oh no, like I've been bamboozled. And that's really how I felt, because I was like, it was almost like I could see the pattern. It was like, oh, she just came in for twins. Okay, let me look at her chart. And I'd be like, oh, they were IVF. Oh, you had no period for 2 years before you went to the IVF clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then you hear and you don't know why you got high blood pressure. It's like, this was the signs. This is why you weren't pregnant, because you thought you could outsmart Mother Nature. Now, it's not the case in everyone, but I feel like IVF needs to be the last option, or at least not one that is so like, it's not the first thing offered, right? Because what happens is, you can get pregnant, but will you stay pregnant? What will the quality of that pregnancy be like? And furthermore, a conversation that we really don't have is, are we contributing to the rise of autism and all these things through the foods that we eat, through the things that we expose ourselves to,
Mm-hmm.
right? At some point, we have to have the conversations that we're the only generation that is like the smartest technologically and the sickest, right? Like, it just,
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And at some point, you have to realize that it's intentional. And it's intentional, that the system was created as such. And I went all the way to law school, to one of the best law schools in South Florida. And I was like, I'm going to go fight Medicaid. Oh, they just don't know what I know. And I'm like, Tony, they just got to see me. They just got to hear my past. They got to see what I've seen.
Right.
And when I got to law school, I was like, oh, the system was created like this. They keep us just hungry, just full enough not to rebel, right?
Okay. But now, I got a question. How do the men in these women's lives react to this as well? How do they handle this, and how are they supportive of their spouses? And advice, and I pose that question to you as well. How was you supported during the process of what you were going through?
I think that the society that we live in, the patriarchy, is male dominated, and as such, I don't think that there's space for the reality of what women experience when it comes to motherhood. And I think that for a lot of women, I'll say myself included, especially women of color, we kind of like associate our productivity with our self worth. The two are like uniquely tied together. We don't rest. And so for me, when I discovered that I couldn't be a mom, that tanked what I believe to be my self worth, right? And in essence, I translated that to I'm no longer as worthy to my husband because I can't give him the baby that he naturally expected from me as his wife when we got to this point. And so from that place of bias, right, if I'm honest,
Yeah, yeah.
I was already prejudging him for his silence in the situation because I was grieving very loudly. I was like, I wanted everyone to know that I was broken. I expected the world to stop spinning on its axis when I suffered my loss, and it didn't. And it kept going. And that made me feel so insignificant. And then to experience that and not have my husband be as vocal or to be just as expressive with this internal bias that I had already inside my mind, I think it caused me to spiral. It really caused me to spiral. And I believe that's why mindset is so important because your mind will literally look for evidence of what you already believe to be true, even if it's irrational.
Mhm.
And I think it took a little while. I think it took for me to like basically like be in so much pain that I like crawled back to him, like, and it was like that place where like you have no choice but to work it through. Um, because it'll break you otherwise. But and I learned in the aftermath that he was hurting as well. That
Right.
he didn't know how to just to say that out loud. That someone he explained to me, "Mommy, someone has to be strong within the two of us," and I felt like that has to be me. You're crying all the time. I can't cry too. One of us has to hold it. And so I think I had a new respect for him because I felt like I understood in that moment what provision was.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, like here I was breaking him down, and in his grief, like he was providing me provision.
Okay, okay. I mean, that makes sense. Is that now from what you've seen, is that a
Mhm.
commonality across the board, or or is it more supportive, less supportive, more understanding, less understanding, or is there a lot of education that has to go along with that?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. And I'm going to be honest. I think that from the 1970s, we've seen a slight, slow increase year by year on narcissism and narcissistic traits in our
Mm,
society.
yeah.
Um, I think that my husband is a Cancer. His birthday was 7 days from mine.
Two
So
cancers.
I,
Oh no.
yeah, I just want to preface and say that because he's I feel like he's more emotionally intelligent, and while I don't think this is the case for everyone, and I'm going to be very honest, um, I had the privilege of working for multiple hospital systems, some that were very affluent and some that were Medicaid. When I worked for affluent hospitals, they didn't experience loss. And I was like, what is it the perfect diet? Then I realized a lot of these women of affluent communities, because of the stigma associated with special needs kids,
Mhm.
they terminate these pregnancies very early on, right? Um, and that's just a reality of the situation. Not saying that everyone does, but saying that statistically they are more likely because of the stigma, right? And from experience, it is very isolating when you're a special needs mom, you know. And so I feel like working in the hospital, I saw less of what I saw at the Medicaid and other hospital and other hospital systems, right? And with that being said, I want to also say that I believe that when people are in survival, um, they're unable to have sufficient emotional intelligence. So the conversations are different, right? Let's say, okay, I have a child born incompatible with life, which something crazy that we just know. The conversation will be much different, right? Depending on, there's so many factors, socioeconomic, right? On what going on that way. So that's one of the things. So I think there's multiple factors. I think there's socioeconomic factors, right? Is mom allowed to be a stay-at-home mom? Does mom get the benefit of being able to withdraw from work temporarily if baby is sick or if she has suffered some grief? Or does mom have to work because mom has to keep up her half of things, right? Different, and I'm just being real, right? I don't know if I'm going a little bit too deep, but different.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, different socioeconomic situations will shift how people grieve, how people communicate, how people show up in situations, especially based on like the woman's capacity. That's like, I feel like that's like 90% of it, right? And so it really depends. It really depends. It really depends. I feel like in my experience, I do not see a lot of couples make it through. Like when they have like an extended or loss, things can get very touchy very quickly. You realize that you and your husband don't have the same values. You want them to continue CPR, knowing the quality of life your potential baby may have, and your husband is telling the nurses and doctors to cut it. Right? These are conversations, these places that you would never meet under normal situation and circumstances. Right? And grief can show up so, it can hide in the most like it has no expiration date, and it can totally affect people differently. But I truly believe that the most important factor of how someone will respond to grief is based on the capacity that they currently have in their lives. Some people are already holding on by a thread.
Okay. I want to add to that, right? Because I love the fact that you said that, and you're absolutely right. But there's another section that about grief that people don't really understand, right? Let alone the concept of grieving or grief in general. So I tell one of the things I tell people, grief is selfish, right? Grief is very very selfish, and what I mean by that, grief it's not going to tell you when it shows up. It's not going to tell you when it's going to leave. But when it shows up, it's like the little kid that you have an ice cream in this hand over here, and the little kid is down at your leg and tugging on your leg because it wants the ice cream, and it doesn't care what you're doing. It wants the ice cream. So, and that's what I mean by when I say grief is selfish, because grief wants your attention. It's self-centered, right? When it shows up, it says, "I need your world to revolve around me." And if you try to push me off, I'm just going to come back at another time, and I'm going to annoy you in these different areas, right? And that's where your emotional, mental, and spiritual begin to play on you, because it's going to say, "Oh, you don't want to talk to me? Here's a memory for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you still don't want to acknowledge me? Oh, remember that thing that you healed
Mm-hmm.
that trigger? I'm going to give that to you as well, right?" And it wants, but it's respectful to you as well. And what I mean by that, I said all that to say this, because it's saying it wants you to honor the memories that you have. It wants to show you how much your love meant, right? So this is for me, and again, I'm only speaking from my
Mm-hmm.
perspective when I say this. Okay, so it will come up and say, "Hey, that you had with that individual. Let's touch on that for a little bit, because there was something that you're missing right now, and you're not truly um, giving it the recognition that it needs.
Mhm.
Because when you begin to acknowledge your grief, you begin to go along the path of healing. And when I hear you talk about these women that are that this grief is show up with them, and the things that they have to endure, it reminds me of that. It definitely reminds me of that, of saying, wow, no one really talks about the after effects of what that really entails. Because women carry a memory from the first time of conception,
Mhm.
right? When they know that they're carrying your body, right? And so, but no one ever talks about it, because now this is where I talk as some men, not all men. Some men will have a connection with the baby it was in the womb until it becomes a physical thing. If I see it, I can connect with it. But until that time, it
Mhm.
doesn't exist, right? Now, I
Makes
could be
sense.
wrong on all of that now, right? I could be wrong on all of that. Again, I'm just only speaking from Tony's point of view here. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that women are in charge of the spiritual world, like, and I believe that men dominate the physical world. So with that being said, that the woman's responsibility right up to like the when they like physically, and then the man becomes like he steps into his role. I can definitely see that. I believe that that's why the womb is so powerful, because that's why femininity is chaos, right? It's like women have the only women have the power to create life, right? And so I can see where men might they might need to see, right? Because the physical part they need to see to build that connection. Whereas women, the spiritual beings, from the moment that they're aware, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, um, about a different kind of bonding tends to take place.
Mhm. Okay, I can see that too. I could definitely see that. But now I want to add to it as well, because I totally agree with what you said.
Okay.
But I do believe that there's some men out there that are spiritually connected as well,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
And within their masculinity, right? Their masculine energy, and I think there's a balance. I think, and at some point, right, one will raise above the other. Now I could be wrong when I say this, but when one raises above the other, is because of there's two spirits starting to enter one body, right?
Mhm.
You have the spirit that's already present, and then the spirit of the baby coming in too. So there's a direct link that comes in. Again, you know, I'm only speaking from my point of view, and I could be wrong about this.
Mhm.
Fact check me, put me in check if you need to. I'm just speaking. But it makes sense that when the womb is open, that there's an opening into the spiritual world to allow this precious spirit to enter, to start the process of life in general. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, you had said something where you said only women are capable of giving life. I think that's where that balance comes in. That's what the equal parts is, right? Because as a man, we carry the seed to that life,
Absolutely.
right? And you can't have one without the other. No matter how you look at it, you can't have one without the other. And I think that's where the partnership comes in. There's a team that's being played right there, right? So you gotta have the seed from the man to fertilize the egg from the woman. But
Mhm.
then after that, that's when the hard work comes in, because the woman has to get prepared. Her
Mhm.
body has to begin to grow and be susceptible to receiving. But
Can I can I tell you the craziest thing?
yeah, please.
I'm very, very spiritual. I was so deep in my thought about the duality, the
Mhm.
male and female, the masculine and feminine energy, and how it's quite literally necessary for everything in life, right? And think when it comes to like even the act of sacred energy exchange, right? Sex, how they say it. It involves the surrendering of the woman to the masculine of the man. That's why, like, and so when I thought, and then that could produce the baby, right? So it's the feminine and masculine that produce. And I was like, interesting. And then I started to think of it down to like, it has to produce life. So think about breath. And I was like, inhale and exhalation is both masculine and feminine.
Exactly. Yeah.
One happens and then my mind was blown. And I was like, I remember going to the doctor one day and him having a sign that said, if someone says they don't have time to meditate, they need double the time to meditate. And that's when it hit me. Yeah, because they're so far in their masculinity that the meditation would be the feminine. It would be the breath. It would be right. And so I was like, with everything, right? Life, business, anything. It is, you need a healthy amount, even life, like duality, let there be light. Like in order for, when God said, let there be light, in order for light to exist, we understand that first there was darkness, right? For one to exist, the other one has to exist. And I think that's so powerful because I don't even think it's a gender thing. Right. I think it is just like you said, spiritually, because I think that in order for a man to be a good husband, a good partner, he has to embody on some level feminine energy. I mean, he has to know how to receive it, how to embody it so that he can have softness for her. And on some level, women have to have some sort of masculine energy as well, right? So that we can connect to the men and their logical thing, right? So, but that was just such a big epiphany for me.
Yeah.
Right. To be overly, because I feel like our capitalistic society keeps us in our masculine energy. And I also believe that is why there is such a prevalence of PCOS. Right. Because if you're a woman, hold up, Tony, hold up. If you're a woman,
Ooh, come on, Dan. Come on, Dan, bring it.
Right. And you are living in a patriarchy society where you have to be in your masculine energy all the time, then it makes sense that energetically you would shift to your masculine energy. And as a result, you have masculine symptoms of you operating out of your masculinity. So if you ask me, what are the signs of PCOS? Facial hair, that apple belly that men get when they drink, male pattern baldness. I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? And the cure, or however you're reversing it, is all about peeling back the layers. It's like, it's all about getting your body out of the nervous system dysregulation, out of go, go, go. And the women who I meet with, the women who need it the most, are the caregivers, are the ones who take care of mom, dad, teachers, nurses. Those are my clients. They're just too stuck in their masculine energy. Therefore, their body has began to produce male hormones in response to that. Now, that's just my opinion. I don't have scientific evidence to show that, but every woman that I deal with, I'm like, I already know. I'm like, yeah, you take care, and no one takes care of you. You've poured from an empty cup, and now like masculine, go, 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 and you got facial hair, chin hair, right? Oh, right, and it's like, yeah, and it's so important in everything we do. It's like, Tony, the minute I get stressed, I realize I clench. I realize I start breathing with my chest, not my stomach. I realize I shift straight into my masculine energy. And then I have to bring it back. I'm like, ooh, let's do some breath work. Let's get to bring balance it back out, right? Because anything that I want in life comes from that duality. That was just so good. I just had to share.
No, I love that. I love that. And I want to add to that, right? Because I find that fascinating as well. You know, and I want to talk about, you said something about society. And over the last couple of years, I've been watching things, you know, and I'm a little bit older now in my days. You know, I've been, and so I've been watching the roles be reversed, right? And society says, I'm going to give you this over here, but you have to get rid of this over here. And what I mean by that, you know, government says, I will give you free money, I will give you the things to get food and everything else, but we can't have the man in the household. And so it leaves the man out on the street, and the man would tend to make these choices and end up in jail, sometimes worse, which leaves our
But
women.
only right there. When you say they kick the man, they rob the women of their ability to be feminine.
Right. And I was going to get to that. You're absolutely
Okay,
right.
I'm sorry.
I was going to get to that. I was going, oh, look, don't be cutting me off, girl. Look, we got to talk about this. Okay, we got to talk about it. But that's what it does. Because it puts our women in position to where it robs them, as you said, of their femininity, right? And they're forced to take on the roles. So when you talk about the symptoms, right, the facial hair and things like that, the more masculine nature, because it forces our women without it, because they are stripping the men out of the household. And we all know that our children function better with their when there's two parents, two healthy parents in a household. Because you can have one healthy parent, and you can have a narcissist, or you can have an alcoholic, or you can have somebody who's struggling with mental disorder, right? It's a bunch of things. But when you got two healthy parents in the household, it makes it so much easier. But when you strip the masculine nature out of the home, it
Mm-hmm.
strips the knowledge that's need to be passed down to the children so they can have a role model. But also, it also forces the women to be much stronger than what they need to be. And something that I learned a long time ago. My grandmother taught me this. She said, baby, don't ever put your weight on that woman because it's be too much and you can break her. Her nature is to be soft. That's her nature, is to be soft. So if you think about what you carry on a day-to-day basis, is she really equipped to carry this?
Thank you.
And the answer is always no. So now here's why I say this. This is why I backtrack a little bit and I go. So when they take these things out of when they take the men out of the home, the woman is forced to carry that weight. So instead of breaking, she taps into her more masculine nature, and she no longer becomes the nurturer that her children needs. She becomes the provider and the protector that her children needs, and doesn't know how to balance that out because there's nothing saying that give this to me. That way you can be within this. And oftentimes, because I watched my mother, I watched a lot of beautiful women in my family, even friends and stuff that I know go through this. And as a friend, I often go, hey, let me take on this responsibility for you so you can focus more on nurturing the things that you need to do, because I am that friend, right? You know what I'm saying? And because I love watching. Jesus Christ, okay, stop going. I love watching people be in their own, right,
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to flip it over to something that they don't need to be. And it may not be um, the more physical, intimate role model. Maybe it's more of a spiritual, emotional, and mental role model that
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you step into the role, you have to be real careful, right? You have to be real careful, and you have to understand your roles and everything, to allow someone to just breathe a little bit. Like you said, they're not breathing from the stomach; they're breathing from their chest, right? And it's like, no, no, I need you to slow down a little bit. Put that back in your stomach. Right? I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be comfortable so you can do what you need to do. Let me just go ahead and take this off. Hey, maybe you just need a breather for a minute, my friend. Let me go take your kids out to get them, because by the time I get done with them, I'm gonna bring them back and they're gonna be sugared up and everything. You're gonna be mad at me, but you're gonna be laughing, okay? Because I'm about to spoil your kids, and all the things that you told me not to do, I'm about to do anyway. Right?
That's
You know what I'm saying?
right.
We're about to go eat some cotton candy. We're about to go have some soda pop. We're gonna have lollipops. We're gonna have all kinds of stuff. By the time the kids come back home, you're like, Tony, I'm whooping you. I'm like, no, I'm dropping your kids off. I'm out the door. So you're gonna have to deal with that, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be all funny games. But I joke around with that. I joke around with things like that. But on a more serious note,
Yeah.
we have to learn how to educate. Um, we have to have more education around this, so people can begin to truly tap into what it is to be a woman and what it is to be a man. right? In order for us to flourish a lot more, but also to deal with the unresolved traumas, the addictions, regardless of what it looks like, the mental disorders that we carry along with them, so we can become whole in who we are. But most importantly, to have a balance through that education. So there's no offset. There's no offset of responsibilities. And I think it's going to take all of us to be able to do that, right? You know what I'm saying? And with your education that you provide people and things like that is huge and widely needed. So how can we do more of educating people and understanding the true depthness of what that looks
Um, I'd encourage anyone to I think it all starts with just like returning to oneself, right? It's like understanding yourself intuitively, right? And I think we've gotten to a place in society where we've kind of given our power away, right? And so I want to provide my clients with body literacy and body advocacy. I want to reinstill that power in them. I don't want them to come to me with everything. I want to teach them how to read their own symptoms, right? Disease. I want them to be able to notice that point of discomfort, of dis-ease when it begins, right? And I feel like the only way to be the optimal version of you is that you have to have these systems in place that help you identify where you are and where you're going, right? And on some level, we have to have those systems in all aspects of our lives, right? When it comes to our health, whether we go to the doctor once every 6 months, once every year, whatever, but we have to have these systems in place that kind of act as guardrails for us. And that's what I help my clients do. More than education, it's really so much creating a lifestyle that they can continue to live and to sustain long after they finish the program with me, right? Because education information doesn't equal transformation, honestly. Like some people ask me like, okay, Tianna, what's the best workout for PCOS? And I'm like kicking it back to them like, okay, where are you right now? Are you on the couch all day? Do you work from home in a cubicle 10 hours a day? Because if you do, then you're not going, you need to start walking for 10 minutes after lunch. You don't need to see a gym, right? Because you're not going from the cubicle 10 hours a day to 1 hour a day at the gym. You need to just walk after lunch, walk on your lunch break. That's where you start, right? That's going to be a whole different plan from a girl who's been doing Pilates for a year and, maybe she doesn't know how to eat correctly. She doesn't know how to support her hormones. A whole different conversation. So that's it, right? And we often see social media, we want everyone else's transformation, and it doesn't go like that, right? You pop popcorn all in the same microwave or the same pot, and all the kernels, even though they start at the same time, they don't all pop at the same time. They don't all finish at the same time, right? And that's why healthcare is so messed up for us, because it's really the generalization that kills us, right? We don't have focus groups for women of color. We don't know what, a lot of the things that we have in place were systems that were not created to reflect our needs. Right. Financially, education, health, like you just name it. And so we really got to create the systems for ourselves. And that means creating such deviations in your everyday life. And I mean, like nothing more than a 1% that you could sustain and easily manage. Otherwise, it will never happen, right? Otherwise, on the first speed bump that you reach, you're gonna tumble back down the mountain, right? And that's why we've got to create life changes in such small increments that it's like the smallest speed bumps every day, where like one setback won't take you back too far. It can't be too far from deviating from your baseline.
I like that. I definitely like that. And it got me to start thinking as you was talking about that, the individuality of the of authenticity, right? And I think now that will allow a person to focus more on who and what they are to help align themselves with purpose, right? and even fulfilling those things, those pieces of self, right, that make you who you are, right? Um, to have a healthier balance. And now
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to uh, put my hand up because you said we don't go to the gym after work, okay?
No,
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 Tony,
no,
not
no. I don't.
everybody.
No, no,
I'm
no, no.
saying
That's
if you
not what
didn't
you
start
said.
there, Tony.
That's not what you said. That's not what you said. I'm over here like, did you just call me out?
No,
Because
Tony, I
I go to the
promise.
gym. Okay, I get off work and I go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. Don't you make me start now? You
That's
know what I'm
right.
saying?
No, but what I was saying, Tony, is that you gotta like. I'm sure you didn't start there, right? Like you started probably like on the weekend. You worked your way into a system that you 4:30 is hard, right? And if I was looking at your YouTube and I'm like, man, how do I be the next Tony? Like and I would be doing myself such a disservice if I tried to meet you at 4:30 in the morning,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I would first have to try to wake up 30 minutes earlier than whatever time I wake up. And that would be my baseline to start with. And that's all I'm saying. It's like we see Instagram and we're like, oh, she dropped 100 pounds overnight. I need to drop it. And it's like, no, girl,
Yeah.
you need to start eating a little bit. We need to just start walking for 10 minutes, get up to an hour, and
Mhm.
then get a gym membership. Once we establish the habit, the routine, work your way there first. And
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
I'm
See.
saying.
All right. I understand that. See, I'm kind of like on the opposite end. I'm like when I decided to go to the gym, right? As a matter of fact, I didn't decide to go to the gym. You want to know how it happened?
Yeah.
I had a gym at my home, so I had my own gym, so I had no excuse. And so when I got into bodybuilding, it was a part of me, and I said, you know what? I can't stand the gym. That's the whole thing, Tiana. I couldn't stand the gym. I hate working out around people. I do. I'm my own self motivator. So if I have my own gym at home, when I
Mhm.
get up in the morning, or or when I get off and things like that,
Mhm.
I can go eat. And the
Mhm.
whole time I'm already psyched up because I'm already thinking about it an hour prior before I even get off of work. I'm already drooling, thinking about what I'm going to do to myself.
No, you
Oh, I'm
didn't,
about to turn
Logan.
up my shoulders. Oh my God, you have no idea of how excited I am right now. Oh, I'm about to go in here and put 700-800 pounds on these legs. Oh, girl, I am not going to walk. I'm already thinking about limping around and what that looks like. Okay, I'm already mentally prepared for that. Oh, I'm about to go in here and rip up my arms. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm about to make it to a point I can't even lift them. What are you
No.
talking about? I'm about to go ahead and destroy myself. I'm already salivating. Okay, I'm already salivating about the damage I'm about to do to myself. Right. So now when I got that going, I'm thinking to myself like, I got my gym right there.
Mhm.
What am I waiting for? I can go in here and do a warm up while my food is cooking. Right. I'm already psyched about that. Right. So
Mhm.
when I first started, I didn't take baby steps. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm gonna do it all the way. Right. We ain't gonna have stuff about this. I'm about to go ahead and beat myself all the hell up. And three
Oh my
hours go
goodness.
by, I'm still sitting up there going like this. Is this all you got? Like how it's in 300 where he was like, "This is Sparta," and he kicks the dude down the well. That's me. I'm like, "This is Tony." And I'm going in there like, "Oh, we're just gonna tear this thing up,
For
right?"
anybody listening, I hope this is not the people is not trying to match up because Tony, you different. You're a different breed. We talked
I
about this. He
am.
even said they don't even make the cloth that you cut from anymore.
They don't. They
So
don't.
don't be setting the standard for people 3 hours after work, seven, eight
Look,
hundred pounds.
look. But that's lightweight though. That is lightweight. Now I say that to say this because you're right. When when I do things, I don't half step it. Even in the work that I do, right? Even being in the grief work, I'm like, no,
Mhm.
because somebody needs to hear these conversations. And I'm not going to give you baby steps because I know that's not what you're going through. Even what you telling yours, I understand it because it's like, no, this is what it is. This is the raw, uncut
Mhm.
truth. And those that are out there experiencing this right now, they're not trying to get it sugar coated.
Mhm.
They want to know how can you relate to them because they're going through something right now, and it's probably feels like the worst thing they've ever experienced in their life.
Mhm.
So they're not looking for somebody to come in there and go, "Oh, sweetie, it's going to be okay."
Exactly.
They're not looking for that. They're looking at you going, "Doc, I'm fucked up right now."
Seriously.
Seriously, right? You know what I'm saying? And they're looking at you going, "I just told you that I'm fucked up.
Mhm.
What do you have for me?" Right? And
Exactly.
I need you to be truthful with me. And sometimes
Mhm.
the truth sounds pretty freaking raw and uncut, don't it? You know, I'm gonna use this story a little bit, right? Because but I'm gonna use my own self. I'm gonna use my own self. When when my son passed away, I didn't know who to turn to because I only knew one other person who lost a kid. I only knew one other.
Mhm.
Everyone else had kids. I knew they weren't going to understand.
Mhm.
When I got home from the hospital after everything,
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say.
Mhm.
When my neighbor comes home, or when my neighbor sees me, the wife comes out. She goes, "Hey, where's little man? Where's your Bubba?" I had to tell her. It's like he's not here anymore. He just passed away a few hours ago. And she goes, "What are you going to do, Tony?" No, I don't know. Her husband comes home and he says, "Tony, come and sit down with me." I said, "Okay." He goes, "I'm gonna tell you something. You're about to go through the worst thing that you've ever gone through. It's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be kind to you. It's going to be downright messy.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm here. If you just need to sit down and talk to me, because I know that now that you understand that what I've been going through."
Mhm.
He goes, "Tony, this is gonna fuck you up." And it was that truth right there that prepared me just for a small fraction of what I had to step into. And
Mhm.
so when I hear Tianna talk about the things that she's gone through and how she navigates, help other women navigate this world, I think about that because I understand you stepping into a place where you're looking at them going, "Look,
Mhm.
this is what's about to happen, and there's
Mhm.
no easy way or going. There's no roundabout way of going about doing it. We're going to have to look at this from we're going to have to look at this from a microscope, and we're going to have to unpack this so you understand exactly what's going on with your body." And I think
Mhm.
that is the most beautiful thing, that gift that we can offer people in this world is the truth of authenticity,
Yeah.
right? Not sugar coated, not holding you by the pinky, going, "Oh, I pinky swear not
Yes.
to do this." No, you're going like this, like, "Come on, let's walk, let's see where it goes," right? But you offer something so much more, where you say, "I'm going to walk with you, and
Absolutely.
together we're going to navigate this." But I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
No, Tony, you hit it on the head. Honestly, you really hit it on the head. I feel like that's often what we're missing the most. And I feel like when we go through something, we're all looking for someone to hold us by the hand. We're all looking for the neighbor to come over, right? And to kind of like give us a little peek on what's to be expected. We look
Mhm.
for that, whether we're buying something from Amazon and we go to check the reviews from people who have purchased it before, right? Um, we always want that, right? And so I feel like when it comes to pregnancy, IVF can be so lonely. They give
Mhm.
you hormones. You start to go through these mood shifts, these changes. You start to have fights with your spouse or partner, and it's like no one really holds your hand, no one does explaining, no one tells you what to expect. It's just like an exchange of money from hands. And although, yes, I do have a business and I do provide a service that does charge, there's such a difference here, right? I'm available to my clients 24 hours a day, 5 days a week throughout the week, right? I make myself available to them. They have unlimited voice. It's just an opportunity to really walk with them, to really hold their hand, to really hold space for them, to get to know them, to deeply get to know them. And I don't take that lightly, right? I deeply get to know them. I get to know their favorite color, their birthdays, the foods that they like, the foods that they don't like, right? Because I really want them to have this experience of like, she got me. And I feel it. I know I feel it because she shows me in so many little touch points. She remembers that my dog's birthday was on Sunday and she sent me a message on Messenger like, yeah, that's me. I'm that coach. Right. And I am a little harsh because I'm like, I'm like your neighbor. This shit's going to suck. If you don't get it together, here's what's coming next. Do you want to be a Black woman in America in labor and delivery with PCOS and complications of labor? Is that where you want to be at? Because that's where you're going. And I hold the space for them. So sometimes I come off a little bit, I do my mom has this thing where she pops her eyes out. I do the same thing, my mom thing. I give them the mom look. And then other times I hold space for them and I coddle them and and I'm there for them and I hold their hand and I go as slow as they need me to go. And I really feel like that's the difference. And that's why my business is called Love Surf Warm, because it's a unique experience. It's a unique warmth and love that you will literally never experience anywhere else. And I feel like you don't even need to be my client to experience it. You can just touch, like enter my web, enter my web, my little spider web, and you'll just feel it. You'll be like, oh, this girl loves her clients down. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that's me.
I love that. I love that. As we begin to wrap up this episode of the Brief Let's Talk About It podcast, I only have a couple more questions for you. I know you got a family, so I don't want to hold you up too much. So my next question would be, how can people find you, Tianna?
Yeah. So Love Surf Warm on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And it's also my website as well, Love Surf Warm. So pretty easy.
Awesome. My next question would be, if Tianna had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. If I had a superpower, I think I would. Oh, there's two things. I didn't get one superpower, Tony.
No, you can have as many as you want now.
Okay, I need like two. I need some way to feed these hungry kids. Like I need some way to feed these hungry kids. There's a lot of places that have food instability, even in the US. And I just think that a society that doesn't invest in our future is like you're investing in our downfall. And so I'd like to see that. I like to see that. And then the second superpower that I would have is just I would love to be able to like poop and give people empathy. Like I would just boop, and I felt like part of my experience with my loss was like kind of that boop, maybe not, maybe I'm undersimplifying how grief filled it was, but I can't express how that experience has opened me up into empathizing with so many other women in a way that I would have never been able to. And sometimes I just wish that you didn't have to experience the tragedy of loss so deeply and personally for it to connect you and for it to allow you to hold space for people in that way. And I just feel like that's what's wrong with our society and our culture today, is that we've all got like the horse blinders on. And if we can just be a little bit more empathetic to one another, to our neighbors, that we could really we could flip this world around in no time.
I love that. One other thing, if you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Yes, I would leave them with my favorite quote. And it is, until you make the unknown known, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And I think that as I go into my birthday this Friday, I'm realizing that much of who I thought I was an oversimplification of who I truly am. Even my name, Tianna, is an oversimplification of who I truly am, of who I embody. And so I feel like that's such an important message that I'd like to leave with everyone today.
Amazing, amazing. I want to say thank you for being on the show today. For everyone who have been tuning in, thank you guys for tuning in, making these shows possible to keep bringing these conversations to you guys. And as always, if this is your first time tuning in, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And most importantly, maybe these conversations aren't for you just now. Maybe you know somebody who can benefit from the conversations that we have. Do me a favor, share this along with them. And let's get everybody the help, the support that they need and deserve with people that are out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. If you missed past episodes, go back. We got something for everyone. Like, again, the podcast serve a few purposes. The people that we talk to are actually genuine people out here doing the work. Okay, so get out here and let's help make a difference. Tatiana, again, thank you for being on the show. For everyone else, you guys already know what it is. We do one every day, so tune in tomorrow. Got another fresh one coming for you. And with that being said, guys, I'm Tony Lynch. We're going to close this one out. I love you. And you guys have an amazing day. All right? Peace.